with the left, with the right, knock him out, knock him out, knock him out for the night. One time, knock him out. Two times, knock him out, knock him out, knock him out for the night.
Hello. Wow, that's loud. Welcome. I have spent my entire adult life mastering the art of seduction. It's my job. As an advertising and magazine photographer, it's my job to create photographs that do indeed seduce you. When you look at the cover of this magazine, it's hard not to be seduced. It's hard not to be drawn in. And that's my job. My job is to draw you in and to make you buy the magazine and then inevitably to open the magazine so that you can read what's inside and also then be brought in to see the ads that are inside that tend to offer promises of sort of an unattainable level of perfection, like this ad that I shot for Marriott Hotels. It's interesting to look at the photograph and buy into the idea that it's real. But it's not real. There's nothing real about the photograph. The couple is not a couple. And to give you an idea of what it takes to turn a so-so beach into a beach that looks like this, it requires first a tractor that comes along and rakes the sand, and then a team of about 3 or 4 assistants who get in there with other rakes and rake the sand some more, and then pick off the little pieces of seaweed. And then there's someone standing by with a leaf blower who blows the sand, so that every time there are footprints made in the sand, those footprints can be blown away so that the sand looks like virgin sand again. And when you see the ad and the photograph, you think, oh, that's my life. But it's never your life, because this is not real. This is another example of a photograph that I shot for Club Med. And it's easy to look at these adorable young kids and think, oh, it's a beautiful day and everything's great. But what you don't know is that just prior to this photograph, that little 3-year-old Anthony was sitting in the sand and wound up getting sand in his eyes. And it was incredibly painful and sat there crying. And I remember specifically, Anthony had bunnies at home. And he sat there saying, I want to go home and see the bunnies. It's all that he wanted. So with his eyes so red and in this state of horror, and the sun was setting and the show must go on, the only solution was to turn the kids around and photograph them from behind. But you don't know that. You think it's real, but it's not. So my career was amazing, and I got to spend most of my winters on beaches in the Caribbean and traveling around to luxury spas and having VIP massage treatments every day and making a whole bunch of money, and things were great until suddenly things weren't great. And what happened was pretty much all at the same time, my 2 sons were born, my values as a human being shifted radically, and the whole nature of the photography industry got turned upside down on its head. All of these things happened within really a matter of months. And everything that I knew about myself, and since the age of 13, it was I would be a photographer. That's it. I would be a commercial, professional, advertising and magazine photographer. That's all there was. And suddenly, it wasn't, and I wasn't. And I was nothing. And just a tremendous loss of identity and a sense of knowing that the past was gone, but not having any clue about what was coming next was a really horrifying, debilitating part of my life. And through that search, there seemed to be a calling. There was a calling to me that, okay, that's over, and what's coming next? And that calling was really toward a much more significant sense of substance, and toward service, and toward meaning. And the search for meaning ironically led me here, not to the TED Talk, but to Suffolk Community College. About 14 or 15 years ago, I wound up teaching photography here at Suffolk for the following 9 years. And it was an amazing experience, and it opened my eyes to so many things. One thing in particular that really changed my life teaching here was a student of mine introduced me to a project created by a photographer in Tennessee about 15 years ago called the help portrait. And the help portrait is a very simple idea where anyone with a camera can photograph anyone that they identify to be in need. That person may have had a really bad day, or that person may be on their deathbed. And the idea is to create that photograph for that person and gift it to them. And that's it. It's a one-way gifting, and the return on that investment is the feeling of knowing that you did something just amazing for another person. That project has grown to the point where there are now almost 400,000 people who have been gifted their photograph through the help portrait. One of my students came to me and said, we would like to do this. We would like to get involved in this. And I turned to the class and I said, well, why don't we look at a particular population and see who you'd like to address? And they chose that they wanted to work with recovering drug addicts. So the odds of us getting access to that population were not particularly good. But somehow, through a miracle of fate, a friend worked at a very high-level position at Phoenix House, which if you don't know, is a huge drug and alcohol rehabilitation organization. And we were given access to work with a group of people who are residents at a facility where they were not only in recovery for addiction, but most of them also suffered pretty severely from mental illness, mostly schizophrenia, and also quite a few of them had just recently been released from prison. So we walked in, not really knowing what to expect, but it was a really horrifying moment. It was one of those moments where you think, what have I just done? And there's no turning back, and there's nothing that can be done, and you kind of stand there and figure, okay, we're going to have to make the best of it. But it was really, really an uncomfortable situation. And somehow, just through the grace of God, there were some students who figured out how we could kind of navigate our way to get started. And we did get started, and it really was a day that it did change my life. It truly did. I realized as the day was going on, it wasn't only my life that was being changed. There was a gentleman that day who I found out later had come out to be photographed. And it turned out that he had not left his room for 3 weeks before that day. Yet there was something about what it meant for him to be seen and understood and recognized, and to feel a sense of belonging. Something about the act of photography was enough to get that man to come out. And I thought to myself, my God, if photography has that much power, then I wonder what I can do with it that I haven't done with it yet. So I realized at that point that what photography can offer really is a remarkable sense of dignity and self-worth, and this opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I can belong to something bigger. Now, at the end of the shoot, the head nurse came up to me, and she explained to me that in her 20-plus years of working in that hospital, that she had never seen that level of optimism on the floor. And I just thought, optimism? How could we, a group of people coming in to photograph a group of people who were at that level of pain, how could we offer optimism in that situation? And she said to me that she didn't know how we had done what we'd done, but all she knew is that they needed more of it. And honestly, I didn't know how we had done what we had done. Something had happened, and I realized that something sacred had taken place that day. And when I walked out the door, I just thought, well, not only did they need more of this, but I need more of this. And I had to figure out how could I get more of it. So through Phoenix House, we wound up being invited to go and work with a group of people at the Phoenix House Mother and Child Center, which is a place for young women who are either pregnant or who are mothers of young children to be able to have a place to go to recover. And while I was there, thank you, while I was there, I met this young woman named Bridget. You can see the commonalities in the photography here, okay? It looks like a magazine cover, and it's as alluring and it's as seductive as a magazine cover, but Bridget is not a model. Bridget is not fake. Bridget is as real as they get. Bridget is Bridget, and at the time of this photo shoot, Bridget was a 19-year-old pregnant, recovering drug addict, a heroin addict. Now, it's really hard to imagine that there's any group of people that might be easier to judge than a pregnant, recovering drug addict. And yet, photography sees through it all. Photography, at least in my case as a portrait photographer, the idea is to see past conditions and just allow a photograph to see into the sanctity of somebody's soul. I thought if I could employ the same tools and the same tricks that I had learned to master as an advertising photographer, and those tricks are meant to grab your attention, hold you in, and have you read something, look at something that you might not otherwise look at. And inevitably, in the world of advertising, to have you buy something. And I thought, I'm not selling anything, but yet I could promote things. And I could promote things like hope, and self-esteem, and pride, and dignity, and community, and compassion. That I could do. And so I asked myself, well, what are those tools? What did I learn? And the first of those tools had to be beauty, because that's the thing that's going to trap you in the first place. So this is Elaine, an absolutely beautiful girl whose life circumstances I promise you would not wish on your worst enemy. But Elaine stepped up, and Elaine put herself out there. And now Elaine's 20-foot high banner hangs on a wall on a big building in the city of New Haven. Just something magical is happening there. So I asked myself the second thing, what else about advertising gets you? And one of the other things I thought of is boldness. Boldness. This is Benjamin Brown, okay? The level of courage that it took for Benjamin to have his photograph taken, to lift his head, is more than you can imagine. Benjamin's photograph also now is on the side of a building in New Haven, Connecticut. Benjamin is dying of brain cancer and won't even be around really to celebrate his strength and what happened with him, but yet he had the courage to put himself out there and to inspire other young people for them to stand up and say, I have something to say, I have a voice, I'm ready to be seen. The third aspect I thought of was repetition. We tend to see the same ad over and over, the same logo, the same headline, the same jingle, right? So this was about 6 or 7 years ago. This was the Huntington Public Library that was transformed into a celebration of youth. We'd really flipped the social paradigm on its head. We allowed people, young people, to have a face and a voice, something to say, and they didn't have to ask permission. They didn't have to raise their hand to ask if it was okay to speak. We created a platform that allowed them to do that in a larger-than-life way. Well, 2 years ago, we moved to New Haven, Connecticut, and things changed. There, an entire city gathered around and said, we believe in this work, we believe in you, and through the generosity of the city of New Haven, countless people stepped up. Even the fire department stepped up. The mayor stepped up. Youth services department stepped up. Economic development stepped up. They came together and said, we believe in the value of this work, and we believe in our kids, and we're going to unite, and we're going to make it happen. So in addition to those banners that you see, we recently released a facet of the project called IMatter Voices, with the idea being, I feel like, hey, if I say I'm giving you a voice, then I want to give you a real voice, and not just a voice on paper, but the real thing. So we've started to record interviews of the young people around and found different ways that we can share them. This is the first. This is part of what we're tentatively calling the Youth Trail. And the idea is that there will be faces of young people all around the city of New Haven that as you're walking around, you can come upon them and stand there and see their face and read what it is that they have to say. But even more exciting than that is the idea that you'll be able to listen to what they have to say. And that'll happen on your phone. So while you're standing there, there'll be signage that will guide you to a website, or there'll be a QR code on the poster itself that will take you to the page where you can listen to what the folks have to say. So what we're doing is we're recording videos, and then we're extracting the audio from those videos to use on IMatter Voices. And this is an idea of what one of those videos will look like.
Sierra Welch, who is she? Well, now she's a little reinvented. She is this beautiful, bright, bold girl. She is definitely different. She definitely stands out from the rest, and she's in her own lane. I want to inspire people to believe that they are beautiful, they are bright, they are capable, they can do anything they set their mind to. And I want to encourage people to do that because that's something that I know I can do. I have this light inside me, and I want to share it with the world. I feel like if you're going to plant a seed in anyone's head, let it be something positive. Let it be positivity. Like, let it be courage. Let it be hope. Let it be something that's going to stay with somebody. My name is Sierra Nisha Welch, and I matter because it warms my heart knowing that I'm helping kids.
So videos like Sierra's will be broadcast across social media, and that audio will also be broadcast on WYBC FM, which is the New Haven area's #1 adult contemporary radio station. They'll also be doing long-form interviews with the kids on their program called Electric Drum, which will allow their adult audience to be calling in to ask questions of the kids. So it's the same thing again. It's a seductive voice this time that's on the radio, a young voice that is insisting that an adult listen and learn. The IMatter towers are the next piece that's going up. We're going to be installing 3 illuminated towers in a pretty dangerous area of New Haven, and the idea is to begin to transform that part of the city into a place of optimism and hope, sort of a beacon of hope. There's also a park that's going to, or a park-like area that's going to be built around the towers. The IMatter app is about to launch. This will give kids an opportunity anywhere in the world to participate in the program. They will have a chance to upload their photograph and upload their IMatter statement, and then this will be shared around the world. What I'd like to offer you in closing are some of the most inspiring lyrics that I know of. They were written for the film The Greatest, a biography about the legendary boxer Muhammad Ali, and originally recorded by George Benson in 1977 when I was 15 years old. There's something about that recording that planted a seed in me that propelled my career forward to do the kind of work that I'm doing, and just really, really left a tattoo on my soul almost. So what I'd like to ask you is this, if I could, that if a teenager or a young adult has the courage to come to you and speak about his or her dreams or hopes or wishes or fears or pains, I would just ask that you do listen, and that you really and truly listen, and put your judgment aside and listen with more curiosity and listen with more compassion, and let them shine. Really, let them speak to you, and listen to them and hold them, and let them really be those beacons of hope so that they can stand tall and proudly say, I matter. Thank you.